Let's talk about how to do a systematic review. So in this video, we're going to talk about how to do this, but also what are the steps to make it easy to everyone to do a systematic review. So first of all, let's look at what it is and how it differs from other kind of reviews or data research. So in this case, the way you're gonna get your results is from analyzing different studies that other authors have written and draw the conclusion from these other studies. So you look at the other studies and you get your conclusion, you get your results together, and from that you formulate the results of your study. So this is how it different from other ones. So like we say, we postulate one or more research questions, and then we go and find these questions from other studies. So we gather the studies and the results from other studies, and then we summarize the findings, and we see where that leads to. So let's talk about steps. So we're going to divide this in a few steps so that it's going to be easier for everyone to do this. And it's just going to be like a simple guide for a systematic review. So first of all, the first step is identify one or more research questions. So what does that mean is that you're going to go through either the research. So let's say you're studying about something, you're studying about a topic, and you see that there is something missing out there. So what you're going to be focusing on is that gap. So you try and do something about the gap so that the bridge will be shorter. Another thing is that you might just have a personal curiosity, and so you go and look for that specific thing and you want to know more about it. So you go and learn more about that topic, and then you find your results about it. Step 2 is review the previous research on the subject that you want to investigate. So as we say, since this method allows us to look at what other people said and then draw our conclusion from it, we have to see what the literature says. So we're going to see if there is an actual gap, and if there is, where is this gap? What can I do about it? So those are the things that you want to look for. And then you also need to make sure that the topic and the things that you want to research wasn't already done by somebody else. And so if it was done by somebody else, what did they say about it? Step 3 is that you have to document your steps. And this is for yourself, on your own management of time, so that it becomes easier to go and look for the things that you need later on. But this is also for the article that you're going to write about, if you're going to write an article about it, because you have to document everything so that other people can replicate the findings in case they wanted to. But also these little steps helps you with establishing a search criteria. So it's a good thing to do. Step 4 is that now you can search resources based on your criteria. So now that you looked at the literature, you saw if there was a gap, or you read about other authors and what they said about the topic that you're interested in. Now you can search the research, the resources, and that is going to give you a better criteria. So now that you have done some research on it, some research on the topic, you have a better understanding of what exactly you want the study to, where exactly you want the study to move. So the step 5 is the fun part. So now you can initiate the screening process. So you go through the pile of articles that you have, maybe in a folder, maybe in Zotero, and you go through the screening process. So based on that, you can either look at the abstract, or you can look at the entire article, and you can see if those articles fit your criteria. So if they can be put into your database, so they need to be omitted from the research. Based on that, you can also create a code book. So the code book is the final step to really define your search, your criteria for your research and how you want to conduct the data. What do you want to do with the data? So by creating a code book, you have an understanding of what exactly is that you're looking for and what you want your research to be. So now we're looking at the final steps. So we look at the literature, we found the topics that we want to work on. We included the articles that we are truly gonna working on. And so now we have to just read them all, code them, and summarize our findings. So we have to interpret the finding and summarize everything that we found. So at the end of the article, at the end of this process, and maybe at the end of the article that you're going to be writing, you're going to state your methodology. So there are different things that you can do, but you have to show everyone exactly the steps that you took in order to get your data. And that's because so that other people can replicate your study, and they can see if they can replicate your findings either. So another thing that you have to look out for is the biases that you might have in your research. So you might state if there are any conflict of interest that you might think of, and also if there are some limitation on the population or on the methods and everything, so that you can tell people, okay, maybe this is where we are lacking, and maybe that's another thing that somebody else can replicate for future researches. So at the end of the article, you can provide the recommendation for future researches. So those recommendations can either come from the biases that you realized you had in your research, but they can also come from something from the limitation of your study. So something that you weren't able to find or you weren't able to do. And so you hope that somebody else, either yourself or some other author, can find that in the future.